Well, LaVelle, this is strange. I'm in Fort Myers and you aren't. Something's not right with the world. But I tell you what, the people down here miss you. The businesses miss you. The cigar bars miss you. And I've been driving around Florida with Phil Miller, and he keeps pointing out, LaVelle keeps that place in business. LaVelle keeps that place in business. LaVelle cigars there. Florida economy needs you. But you'll be following me down here. This is, by the way, this is Chin Music. This is our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. Today's lineup, usually we have Roy Smalley, the former Twins All-Star. Today, the lineup is the lesser contributors to the Chin Music show. Yeah. LaVelle E, Neal III, Star Tribune columnist and baseball guru. I'm Jim Souhan, also from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. I'm in Fort Myers. I'm going to tell you what I've been seeing and hearing down here. LaVelle's going to help us with how this team's roster construction looks, what's going on with the franchise in general. We appreciate you listening. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. This show is presented by Giggly THC Beverages and OnX Hunt. Tell you more about them in a minute. We're also sponsored by Clamshell Beach Resort, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Chew Vision Institute. So I'll start off since I'm down here.
Sure.
Really good vibe around this team right now. Buxton's healthy and in a great mood. Correa's healthy and in a great mood. Royce Lewis is healthy and homered in his first spring training at bat, I believe. The bullpen looks like it's going to be phenomenal given reasonable health. They have some starting pitching depth. I don't know. For a team that basically spent no money in the offseason, they're actually shaping up to be a pretty good team.
No, that doesn't surprise me, Jim. I think even, coming out of last year, we were like, this is a roster that's good enough to win the division. And they were in the playoffs until the last 6 weeks of the regular season. Despite a bunch of injuries, and I think everything just hit critical mass there the last 40 games or so, and they just couldn't sustain it, maybe last 30 games or so. So we knew what this roster is capable of. It was just, it gets lost in the frustration from fans, what's gone on the last couple of years of how they approached the payroll and having to deal with injuries again and wondering if Buxton's going to be on the field and Correa having plantar in his other foot. And the owners the poll has decided to explore a potential sale, which hasn't happened yet. And I think all this has created a cloud of negativity when if you just get down to the bare bones and break this thing down to the studs, it still has a strong foundation, and that is the playing roster. And there's a lot of talent. We've seen it, the offseason was a bit unimpressive, but, Ty France and Harrison Bader have already flashed at spring training and showed what they can do. So, I think, and it's obvious that, some people believe the Twins are going to win the division. And that's from national folks and other websites that track the game very well. So, this roster's legit. It doesn't surprise me that you're seeing what you're seeing down there. I was encouraged by your column today about Juan Duran because it sounds like he's lost a little bit of weight. That the body's a little more firm. I think that's going to help him.
Yeah, I think he looks good. He's in great spirits. It's the old guard. He has a smile on his face that people would make fun of. But one reality is if a player is healthy and optimistic, he's going to be smiling. There's actually some basis for that. Duran is in a great mood. He looks good. He pitched well. Yesterday we're talking here on Wednesday morning. I'm down in Fort Myers. LaVelle will be following me down here in March. Duran looks really good. Jax looks really good. Listen, they're good enough. They were good enough to win last year. And I know public opinion is they just didn't spend enough money. The reality is they had a bunch of young players just not perform in September. That's why they didn't make the playoffs. It's that simple. They also had Duran hurt and not quite himself last year. They also had Caleb Thielbar, who's supposed to be their main lefty, have a terrible season. There were a lot of other reasons other than just payroll. Maybe if they'd spent more money, it would have made the difference. But they had a good enough team last year, and injuries and young players failing late in the season, that's why they didn't make the playoffs.
I agree, man. And here's the thing. In spring training, you talk more about what you have instead of what you don't have. You spend the regular season and maybe the off season kvetching about all that stuff. But when you get to spring, you think, okay, what do they have? What are they going with? What's going to be the best version of themselves. And this team, if everything is clicking, is a 90-plus win team, in my opinion, even in an improved AL Central division. Definitely because what the bullpen could be. If Louis Varland ends up in the bullpen and Cole Sands continues to make the progress that he made, to go with Jax, to go with Duran, and I think they may have to come up with another lefty reliever, but that bullpen's going to be pretty impressive, man. And, we always looked at Cleveland going, how is Cleveland winning so many games? Because their offense is pretty much middle of the pack in baseball. Their bullpen was ridiculous last year. Absolutely ridiculous. And that's how they've been successful. And I think the Twins are going to be that team that's going to have a ridiculous bullpen this year. And that is going to help them. If they're leading after 5 innings, there will be some days they can get those last 12 outs and finish games off. It's that talented. So, this is a time to really be optimistic about how much damage this team can do in the AL Central.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. The other popular thing for people to say is the division stinks, so she just always win it. The division's actually good. Cleveland is a great organization. The Royals are rebuilding with some real talent. They're dangerous. The Tigers, I think they have the ability to be a good team. Really, other than the White Sox, this is a very good division.
You have an elite player in Bobby Witt already early in his career. Jose Ramirez has been an elite player for several years in Cleveland. Tariq Scuba's Cy Young winner with the Tigers. They've got other pieces there as well. There's good closers. Clase is one of the better closers in baseball. There's talent among these 3 or 4 teams. It actually is going to be a really entertaining division to watch because it does have some star power. Does it have Ohtani or Judge? No, but they have guys who are all-star players, legitimate all-star players, leading their teams. So, and we've seen what Bobby Witt can do for a Royals team, how he elevates everybody around him. So this is going to be a fun year, I think.
I agree with you. Okay, more to get to, and it's including a lot of stuff I've seen since I've been down here, and get LaVelle's thoughts on some roster construction, all that. I want to remind you, we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios, and we also want to let you know that you should keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes, 0 alcohol, no bad decisions, just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas, packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at more than 500 locations like Total Wine, MGM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at giggly.com, Gigli.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use the code Giggly North, Gigli North, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better. My wife and I have been drinking a lot of this stuff. It does take the edge off. It tastes really good. Some really cool flavor combinations. I highly recommend it. Also want to let you know that ice fishing is here, and it's time to hit the frozen water with Onyx Fish. The Fish app is the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your confidence on ice. Use Onyx Fish to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. Onyx Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. For a limited time, download Onyx Fish for free in Minnesota and Wisconsin, or go to onyxmaps.com/fish to get more information on the app that is changing the game on ice. So, sights and sounds down here. It's a really positive clubhouse. Rocco's in good spirits. Falvey's in good spirits. There is the ownership issue hanging over everybody's heads. I don't know about you. I just don't think we're going to know anything. The ISHB is backing out, basically took the one ownership group that we had heard about. It doesn't mean that they were going to be the best owners or that they were going to, end up winning the bid. They were just the obvious, possibility. I've actually, LaVelle, been told by a bunch of people that the Twins dodged a bullet because they are not the way they've run the Suns is not very widely regarded well.
That makes sense because they said, okay, we're going to bring in Kevin Durant, we're going to bring in Bradley Beal, and payroll be damned, draft picks be damned, and they're in a bind right now. And Durant's butt hurt now because they wanted to trade him, and he didn't like that, so he nixed the deal. So that stuff starts at the top, man. That doesn't surprise me, but I keep hearing that there's still interest in this team. But it's funny, man. I was at the Wild game last night, and I left my car at a bar and took a shuttle and I'm on the shuttle coming back from the Wild game, and I'm listening to people talk, and they're like, "What happened to the Twins sale?" And the other guy goes, "Oh, it fell through." And I'm like, "Well, it never got to the point. It never got to the point where it fell through.
It did not fall through. Oh my!
And well, here, just not to get off subject, but the next thing they said was, "Wow, they let Kepler go to Philadelphia. God, the Twins are going to suck this year." And I'm like, how are these people getting their information? Do they not subscribe to the Star Tribune? I'm like, good Lord. But no, it's not over. They're interested parties. And I just think there's some posturing going on right now because all of a sudden we had a couple stories pop up about, well, the Twins could take the team off the market. Well, that's just to me a plant to get the number that they want to hear thrown out there. So I still think like there's still some posturing and a little bit of negotiating through the media going on with interested parties. I don't think the Twins are at the point where they're ready to pull the team off the market. Especially if they did, that would mean they're a little bit of they're frauds because they came out and told us how much interest they had. They claimed it was significant interest. So I would imagine there's got to be other people still interested. And there's plenty of billionaires in this country that can own baseball teams. And I'm got to imagine that one of 2, 3, 4 of them have to see the Twins as an appealing option. It's just going to take maybe a little bit longer than we anticipated and longer than what fans wanted.
Well, and what I've heard is there are like 8 parties or so that are interested. It's not that there's no interest, it's that the people running the search have kept things very quiet, even from Twins executives. Twins executives don't know what's going to happen. I think they will sell. I don't know what the timing is. I don't know who the owner is going to be. I think they will sell. And I don't think this was some kind of a game. I think the Pohlads want to sell and will sell. We just don't know how it's going to play out.
No, we don't. The interesting thing is I read the other day in the Chicago paper that the White Sox are valued at $1.8 billion. And I was like, wow, the rumor is the Twins want 1.7. I can imagine the White Sox are worth a little bit more than the Twins given their market. And they do have a workable stadium, although Jerry Reinsdorf is acting like he needs a new one. But that's a workable stadium that has been renovated multiple times through the years. So I would expect that the White Sox would be more of a $2 billion franchise, to be honest with you. So I'm curious to see how this whole Chicago thing works out with the Ishbia brothers likely to buy more shares in the White Sox and put themselves in position to one day be the majority owner. Jerry has told his family, if something happens to me, I want you to keep the Bulls and move the White Sox. So this doesn't surprise me that this possibility exists. And, good luck to the Ishbias and let the next billionaire move in and take the lead in terms of the race to buy the Twins.
And you know what? I look at it differently. I would rather own the Twins than the White Sox. The White Sox share the market with the Cubs, who are always going to be more popular than they are. The ballpark is okay at best. It's really the last mediocre ballpark that was built. And I know they've renovated and made it as nice as it can be. It's not a terrible ballpark. It's just not a draw by itself. Twins have Target Field, a market that will show up for baseball if they give them a reason to. I think they're a better organization. They have more talent. They have a better farm system. I would much rather own the Twins. I would pay more. If I had $8 billion, I would pay much more for the Twins than the White Sox.
Interesting. I was talking in terms of franchise value, but
sure.
In terms of situation, I think the Twins are in a better situation than the White Sox right now because they're coming off one of the worst seasons in baseball history. Two, they have a farm system that needs renovation. The Twins are ready to win now. They have a decent lease agreement with the city that could be extended to 2059 if they can get the tax to maintain the stadium extended. So, yeah, they've got some things going for them. And if you don't want to be second fiddle to the Cubs, I would think the Twins would be a little more appealing. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so what I'm seeing down here, good clubhouse vibe, a lot of good moods. Buxton just seems really happy. And I got to know him when he was an A-ball. And I spent a lot of time chronicling him and doing big stories on him and paying it. And he was a very nice young man. And, the injuries had just made conversations with him awkward. He doesn't want to, nobody wants to talk about injuries all the time. But, I just chatting with him the first day I was here. He was like, man, I feel great. I'm really, I've had a great off season. Lewis is healthy and looking good, and I think he learned a lot from what he went through last year. Correa's healthy and in a good mood. I mean, if those guys, I don't know what the number is, but if those guys are on the field, let's say a combined 360 games, this is going to be a good team. Now, if those guys are on the field a combined 280 games, this team's going to have problems. Those are their best. Those are their best players. They're great offensive players. Two of them are great defensive players. But if those guys are healthy, this is going to be a good team.
Yeah, and and Rocco's probably going to be cognizant of that during the season and probably gauge those guys or give those guys a break a little more often. 360 games would be 120 per player, and I would take that because I think what Buck played about 100 games last year.
100 plus, yeah.
Yeah. So I noticed that Buster Olney and ESPN still has Buxton ranked as the 6th best center fielder in baseball. So that tells you that people have not given up on the talent or have devalued him much because of the injury situation. But yeah, if you can keep those guys on the field around that number of games per player, they could do it because Royce can get a break and Miranda could play third or he could DH. Same thing with Buxton in center. He could DH or get a break and have Bader play center. And Correa, I know Castro, was affected by playing a lot of shortstop, but he could still play a little. Brooks Lee could play a little, but that's a question I have for you too. Brooks Lee versus Edouard Julien. But I mean, there's flexibility here where Rocco can make it easier for these guys to get through a season healthy, I think.
Let's get to the infield because I think there's a lot of intrigue there. We do want to remind you that we're coming to the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want you to know more about Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services, your independent authorized Connecticut dealer, bringing some love to your water. Isn't it time for softer skin and laundry, sparkling dishes, and water so good you'll want to hug your faucet? Connecticut is easy on salt, uses zero electricity, and delivers worry-free water you'll love. Schedule your free water analysis today at AquariusHomeservices.com and save up to 25% on a Connecticut whole home system. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Here's Michael Russo, one of the stars of TalkNorth.com on Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Thanks also to a great Minnesota company, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And here's another TalkNorth.com star, John Krasinski, on True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington. I've been telling you about it for months now. Just a life-changing experience for me to go to True Vision and have LASIK surgery this summer. everything is easier for me after having LASIK surgery. I don't have the hassles of contacts and eyeglasses. I don't have to worry about going in for annual appointments to get the eyes checked, and also to make sure that I have the latest and greatest style of glasses, and I'm not looking like some washed up 46-year-old like I am, trying to stay ahead of the trends. I don't have that anymore. I'm just going around free and clear without anything on my face. And that's all thanks to the good folks at True Vision. When you go into True Vision, you will immediately notice how welcoming, how warm, how friendly, and how knowledgeable the staff is there. They get you in, they get you checked out, they find the right vision correction options for you. And then Dr. Chu is just world class in how he helps you through the procedure, how he makes sure that he gets you taken care of, and like he did with me. And I've had zero issues with my vision since I had the surgery in July. And I just keep kicking myself and wishing I would have done it 10 years ago. So go to truevision.com and set up your consultation. Tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you, and get on with your life. Make it easier on yourself, and just get to the point where you can kick your own self in the butt and say, why didn't I do this a long time ago?
At the end of the show, we'll do our usual booze and blues segment. That's been a lot of fun. I have a booze recommendation later on. LaVelle will contribute in some way to that as well. Mm-hmm. So right side of the infield is interesting. Right now, for all the talk we've gone through about Miranda and Julian and Brooks Lee and other possibilities, it really sounds like their default position will be Ty France as your first baseman, Willie Castro as your second baseman, maybe Miranda or another veteran getting off his feet as your DH. And it sounds like, so what that means is that Brooks Lee and Julian are going to have to earn their playing time. They're not just be given a job.
I found that interesting. Willie Castro deserves to be an everyday multi-positional player, as Rocco likes to use. So I get that. And maybe second base should be his primary position in that type of format. But man, the flashes I've seen from Julian and Lee, I think they can help the team out at the plate. I really do. Even with the little bit we saw of Lee before he hurt his shoulder, I just thought the kid was getting a hit whenever he got to the plate. Julian, last year was kind of a disappointing year, just taking so many call strike threes and not being aggressive when he needed to. And just to show you how much of a geek I still am about baseball, I actually watched the Twins spring training game a couple of days ago. And I'm watching Julian, and he hasn't changed. He's taking balls he should swing at, and then when he does hit the balls, it's down the left field line. I was hoping to see him, use center field or pull the ball a little bit more. So I don't know if that's a warning sign or not, or if I'm over stressing this because it's the first week of spring training games. But yeah, and maybe in the long run, this is good for both those guys. Have to earning their keep. Same way for Miranda a little bit too. If Ty France is going to be at first base, Miranda's got to prove he's got a spot. Although I would imagine him being able to play some first, some third, and DH would keep him on the roster. So I guess the way I'm talking myself into realizing that either Julian or Lee will not be on the roster opening day. Is that what we're thinking here?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure. And of course, we're talking about if there are no injuries, of course. I mean, Miranda's on the team. I think it might be Julian or Brooks Lee. I'm not sure both of them make it. And my concerns with those two, Brooks Lee, I think he's a smart baseball player. I think he's a really good fielder and a versatile fielder. And the fact that he can move around, play different defensive positions allows him and Castro to kind of alternate at second base and utility. I think he makes a lot of sense. I want to see him hit the ball harder. He knows how to take it at bat. He knows how to feather a ball into the gap. I think he needs to be more of a hit the ball hard kind of guy. And I didn't see him hit the ball hard enough last year. My concern with Julian is that, the called third strikes, going deep in count and not drawing the walk. I just think both those guys have something to prove, and Lee's the better fielder and more versatile fielder. So I think he's got to be ahead of Julian unless Julian proves something.
That's the thing too, Jim. Brooks Lee may be their second best defensive infielder.
Yes, he's a very good fielder.
Because the arm is strong, and it's true. It's truer than Royce's, which led to the Twins considering making Royce Ryan Sandberg last year for about 3 weeks before
Right.
they ditched that idea. So I would imagine Lee would have the advantage there. But the other question that comes up too is that would his offensive development be stunted if he's having to deal with bouncing around from position to position, or can he deal with that? I would imagine being son of a coach and being pretty heady, he could handle that, but you really don't know sometimes.
No, true. And of course, one thing you and I have learned a long time ago is don't talk about the opening day roster as if it's going to stay the same for more than like 5 days.
No kidding.
So if Lee shows any signs that his offense is taking a hit because he's moving around, they'll send him down, And if Julian, gets sent down and crushes it, he'll be back up. I mean, this is, you got to have a functional major league roster of about 35 guys. And you don't know who's going to contribute at what time or who's going to have to fill in for an injury. But I mean, look at Miranda. I mean, I didn't know if he was going to be in the big leagues at all last year. He ends up having one of the great months in Twins history.
He was a monster in June.
Some slightly lesser run. So there's so much unpredictability in the game, which is what I love about the game. It's fascinating.
And at least at least the Twins have inventory of players that you wouldn't mind seeing out there instead of guys who maybe have to be rushed into service. So, and that's a big change. I was just thinking about this too. I mean, we were talking so much and we were kind of laughing about the beginning of the NBA season about how Chris Finch has an embarrassment of riches with such a deep bench, and they've had an up and down season, but recently they've stabilized because some of those guys we were laughing about actually have stepped up and done well. So this could happen with the Twins as well.
No doubt about it. Royce Lewis seems, listen, he's always a good guy. He's always a fun guy to talk to. It really sounds like he figured out that taking care of his legs, resting, learning how to grind through a long season, that's his goal, because he fell apart in September. And it was shocking because we all know he's a great clutch player, but the cliche in baseball is you got to have your legs under you, which sounds funny, but there's a point to it, which is if your legs aren't healthy and fresh, it's hard to function in this game.
Yeah, and the other thing too, how many knee surgeries has he had?
He's had a bunch.
Yeah. So he's hopefully this offseason he was in the position to get his legs in condition to last through a season. So instead of having to rehab knee injuries and things like that. And plus he was banged up last year too during the season. So if you could just figure out a way to keep these guys healthy, this team would be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think so. Harrison Bader has very large arms.
Really?
He is that dude is put together. I don't know what his offensive production. He's obviously a very good fielder as well. He can run. He's athletic. Variable is, just how much is he going to produce offensively? And it's going to be really interesting to see how they manage the outfield time between these guys.
Well, if the bar for him is not that high, because if he could just do better than Manuel Margot, people are going to view him as a great addition.
Yes.
So, and if he could, we know it's inevitable too. There's going to be games in which there's a right-handed starter for the opponent, and he's going to get pulled in the fourth or fifth inning. And here comes a lefty, and Rocco's going to try to win matchups and bring in pinch hitters, and that's when Bader's going to be called into the face of lefty. And we saw, I think Margot was 0 for 21 pitch hitting because Rocco was trying to win those matchups. If he just gets a couple hits, he will easily exceed everything that Margot did last year. So the standards for him aren't that high. He just has to be functional.
Yes, they just need him to be a solid player who can move around, and that would be very welcome. Margot was a disappointment last year. For whatever reason, he just didn't quite do what they needed him to do. Let's get to the rotation, because sometimes it's easy in baseball this time of the year to have the wrong perception. I kind of came down here thinking, okay, what Simeon Woods Richardson did last year, he's probably the fourth starter. Fester, I think, has a lot of real upside. Matthews has upside. I don't know if Chris Paddock's going to figure in. Getting down here, talking to our beat writers, our colleagues, Bobby Nightingale, Phil Miller, being around the team, sounds like Paddock might get the first shot at being the fourth starter, with Simeon maybe as the fifth, and maybe Festa and Matthews having to, wait or earn their way to the major leagues. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. What are you getting out of the scuttlebutt about the rotation?
Yeah, they've always had a fondness for Paddock. I mean, that's why they traded for him with the Padres a few years ago, thinking that he would be healthy. He just broke down on them. I would imagine if Paddock is healthy and if he's throwing the ball well in camp, that he's going to be in a rotation. I thought maybe more as a number 5 than a number 4, but I'm not going to sit here and nitpick over who's the 4th starter and who's the 5th. If that's how the Twins want to play it, I get that. I kind of was prepared to see Zebby and Festa begin the season in AAA, but I would put Festa in front of Zebby, and Festa came to camp with another pitch, I believe. I think he's added a sinker, so he's got 2 fastball shapes to throw at people in addition to the slider and the changeup. And if he has a strong camp, I hope the Twins are willing to at least consider bringing him north, because I do think he's on a little bit of a faster track than Zebby, or he's on a more of a development path, a faster development path than Zebby, and has a chance to be a good mid-rotation guy. And especially if he has added another pitch, I can control it. I just think that he could take a big step this year. And it won't hurt if he has to start in St. Paul in April. I mean, we saw what happened last year. We had an early injury, and Louis Varland was not effective in April and ended up being sent down. And that's when Simeon came up and was able to stick in rotation. So it's not the worst thing in the world. And we have to remind ourselves, too, is that we're not going to get through the season with 5 starters. This ain't 1968 anymore. And that it's going to take 8, 9, maybe 10 starters in your inventory to get you through a regular season. So it's not the end of the world if those 2 guys, Festa and Matthews, have to start at St. Paul.
It is not. It actually gives them pitching depth, which they will absolutely need. Quick note, everybody down here is very impressed with Luke Keeschel. I think he's going to be a real impact hitter once he's gets past the injury and gets a little more time in AAA.
What's his position?
Wherever they want to bat.
Okay.
I just think, I don't know that he's a plus defender anywhere, but he can play different positions. Listen, they really don't have a first base. Maybe Ty France is their guy. Maybe he has a great year and solves that problem. But at some point, they might need a first baseman, and he might be that guy.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to see that. I've never seen him play. I've seen the numbers. They're impressive. I read the story about coming back from Tommy John. So
yep.
I like to see more of the kid. And they've done it. It's weird. It took them a while to get the pitching pipeline figured out, but they've had a run of like middle infielders or infielders here that they've been able to either use as tradable commodities like Encarnacion Strand and Spencer Steer. But then, they had Miranda and they had Lee and they had Julian, and now Keeschel is in the mixer here. So they're doing something right in that regard.
The farm system's in really good shape, and Keeschel, he's, as they say, he looks hitterish. He is a guy, when he walks the plate, you expect him to get a hit. All right, let's get to our Booze and Blues segment. Thanks to everyone for listening. We do appreciate it. I'll be brief this week. I'm in Fort Myers. Like to have a drink at the end of the day without sitting around a bar. I went and bought a bottle of Balvenie Double Wood 12-year-old. If you like Scotch, I don't know. Listen, I'm not a Scotch snob, but it's a really good, solid, not cheap, but not crazy expensive sipping Scotch. I highly recommend it. It's, again, you can go crazy in the Scotch world. You can spend $1 million on this stuff. I think for what it costs, it's really good.
I have that very same bottle in my cabinet here at home. And that is my Balvenie is one of my favorite scotches. It's up there. I mean, there's a lot of Highland Park's great, Macallan's great, but Balvenie is definitely up there. And I agree with that. That one has great flavor. I was going to talk bourbon this week.
Yes.
Just for the people who think that Blanton's is overrated or Widow Jane is a little too harsh or they're tired of just drinking Eagle Rare. I've recently tasted Garrison Brothers. And Garrison Brothers has a whole slew of bourbons, and I really like a couple of them. They've got the single barrel, which kind of it's kind of a deep copper colored look to it, but it's got a really wonderful finish. It goes in kind of powerful, but it comes out really smooth, and I don't mind that. I'd rather have that than the other way. When it comes to smooth and goes down harsh. So I like that one. And it's not cheap, but if you want to try to expand your bourbon horizons, I would look at Garrison Brothers. They also have a model called the Balmoria bourbon, and that's delicious. And it was I think it was transferred from one oak barrel to a second one, and then aged for an extra year. So, and it's won awards for being like the micro whiskey of the year. So I would give the Garrison Brothers Balmoria bourbon a shot. It's a blue label on top of the bottle, and it is delicious. So that is my bourbon choice suggestion for the week.
Fantastic. Great stuff, LaVelle. I will try to leave a few stories for you to tell when you get down here. LaVelle, of course, will be down here to join Bobby and Phil covering the Twins for the Star Tribune after I leave. It's been a really good camp. Bobby and Phil are great to work with. Bobby's doing a great job for the Star Tribune. We're really lucky to have him as well as Phil. We got 3 former beat writers as columnists, myself, LaVelle, and Royce. I highly recommend reading the Star Tribune when you want Twin stuff. We don't get things wrong. We have a lot of history with the franchise. We get great access from the franchise. Highly recommend subscribing to the Star Tribune to follow Twins coverage. They're going to be interesting this year. So thanks to LaVelle, and thank you for listening.